Howdy, everybody. Shasta College Humanities 4 Film Studies. How's it going? How was your weekend? We're having beautiful spring like weather. I don't know if that bodes well for our water supply, but it is what it is. Um, I've had a chance to look at the film I asked you to look at, The Trip to the Moon. Start up the discussion. I'm going to join you there soon. I'm going to assign the first essay, not tonight, but I'm going to assign you the film so you can start watching it. It's called The Kid by Charlie Chaplin. It's on YouTube, made in 19, I think around 21. It's not, it's a feature film, meaning it's a longer film than 10 minutes, but it's under an hour. So it shouldn't be too torturous for you. It is in glorious black and white, and it is a silent film. What I'm trying to do, each of your essays will cover a film from a decade in our history. Um, so this is covering the early years of cinema, and then next week we'll do, or the week after that, I should say, we'll be doing films that came later that people actually speak in. But I'm not talking about that tonight. I want to stick on silent films and their importance in our evolution of movie making. Of the films you love today are all started this way. This is how they rolled. There was no other way to do it in the early days. They didn't have, uh, they couldn't synchronize the sound up to the film that came in later, the late 20s. And so they pantomimed the acting. That's why when you watch these things, when you watch The Kid, maybe you saw some of it in The Trip to the Moon, the acting is very physical. There's a lot of gesturing, pantomiming. That's how they did things in those days to get their message across. Also, these films that you're seeing or going to watch are very early stages of cinema techniques, and they're not using close ups. They're only shooting like they're in the audience and they're looking up at a stage. That's The Trip to the Moon for sure. Some parts of a lot of silent films are like that. It wasn't until D.W. Griffith made his breakthrough film, 1915, Birth of a Nation, that he came up with utilizing close ups and a moving camera that kind of revolutionized the way movies are starting to be made. We're going to talk about Birth of a Nation a little bit later and the controversy around that. I hope you guys are able to find the story of film documentary by Mark Cousins. It's the same thing as the book. It's the same title, same author. He made a documentary that follows the book. And so if you get the book, start reading the chapters, you'll see these films follow the chapters. So there's a visual story to it, and I just don't have to read all those boring words. The book goes into more detail than the film does, but it's a good companion piece to the book. You're going to need both. Going to give you guys a little more time to get the book. And please chime in somehow um, on who got the book. Maybe I'll start a conversation. Who's got the book, or who's getting the book, or what's the holdup? Okay. I know we just started last week, and I don't expect you guys to have all this stuff, but yeah, it's going to help you a lot to get through the course. And also the small book that goes with it. It's a companion piece, How to Write About Movies, which is what you're going to do. You're going to critically analyze film. Starting with the first film, I'm going to go into it in more detail on the next lecture, which will be in a day or two. Um, Not tonight. I just want to assign you the film tonight. I'll put it on the announcements, not in the assignments yet because it's not open yet. You'll write a 3-page to 5-page critical essay, double space, put your name on the paper, Make sure you put title of the paper, what film you're watching, not just essay one, essay two. Put the kid and your name, and of course the class you're in. Um, and what here's the secret to the papers. I'll tell you right now. You're not going to look at it through your 21st century eyes. That's not going to be easy. You're going to go back in a time machine, like in Back to the Future. You're going to get out of that car and you're going to walk into a movie theater in downtown New York City, and you're going to watch the kid along with everybody else who'd never seen anything like that ever. But you're going to have 1921 eyes on it, not 2022. You're not going to talk about how it doesn't look like new films. You're not going to compare it to new films. You're not going to hopefully even bring up the fact that it's silent and black and white. We know this. You're going to be a moviegoer, a critic for the magazine, for the New York Times. You're going to write a review of it. What makes it work? The acting. I'll break all this down later, but this is all the reason why you need to buy this little companion book, How to Write About Movies, because it tells you what a director does. Do you know what a director does? It tells you how important the script is. That's the screenplay. It tells you what the camera is up to. Does it move? Is it stationary? There's very little movement in the cameras in these early days because they didn't have the equipment for it. So they're mostly staged, kind of like a play. Look at the themes of the movie. What are some of the themes in The Kid? There's many. Write about them. What's a theme? Well, poverty, loyalty, loss, dreams, hope, love, unrequited love. Action isn't a theme. Horror isn't a theme. Those are genres, which you're also going to be familiarizing yourself with. The Kid would come under dramedy, except they didn't have that word in those days because it's dramatic and it's comedic at the same time. Stars Charlie Chaplin, so it's going to have pathos in it. His if you don't know Charlie Chaplin, you're going to find out who he is by watching that film. Will probably, hopefully, do some research, not just watch the film. Do some research on the film. It will help you understand the times that this film was made, what was going on in the world, and that's really important to this course. The humanities aspect of this course is trying to understand historically, culturally, what's going on in the time that these films are made. And the time this film was made, film had been around for maybe 2 decades. It had become highly profitable. People were starting to build theaters just to watch movies. But a world war broke out, World War One, and lots of lives are lost. And when people came back from the war, cinema changed forever. Talk about that more at another time, but that's what I'm looking for. Look at the cultural, what's going on in Chaplin's world? Why would he make a movie like this? And try not to compare it to new movies. I know it's going to be tempting, but that's not fair. This was cutting edge technology. The audience didn't know any better. It's always silent. That's how they knew. And so they weren't missing sound. Although a lot of times there is sound in these films because there's a musical soundtrack that was usually provided by musicians, live musicians playing their instruments in the movie theater when the movie was playing. Sometimes there's sound effects. Uh, but no spoken dialogue. They didn't have the ability to do that yet. So everything's gesture. The actors have to physically portray fear, horror, sadness, happiness, boredom by their physicality. That's why their body movements are exaggerated. Also, the reason why silent movies are a little bit exaggerated is because of the film speed. This gets to be boring and it's too technical, but the average camera that we're used to, not let's not talk about video now. Let's not talk about our cell phones because there are no frames in that. That's all digital world. I'm not going to talk about that yet. But in the old days, Hollywood had hand cranked film cameras. They didn't have batteries, folks. There's no electricity to plug them into. They had a camera operator who cranked it with his hand like this. You can see, if you watch that documentary, The Story of Film, you'll see them hand cranking the cameras. Well, they hand cranked them. That's a very imprecise way to do it. And their silent films are mostly 16 or 17 frames a second. Later on, when sound came in, standard for American film, for all of film everywhere, was 24 frames a second. That's why, and it smooths the more frames a second, the smoother the movements. Now we're filming in HD and 4K and all that, and they don't even equate it with frames a second anymore. But if you have a video camera, you know it can shoot usually 30p or 60p. That's become normal. Uh, I'll be talking about technology as we go along too, me guys. This isn't a filmmaking class, uh, but I'm a filmmaker, and it really helps to put this stuff into context. So you're not just watching a film that's silent with over um, performing actors who are kind of maybe it's a little corny or hokey. That's how it was. I wasn't considered that at all then, and because it was cutting edge, state of the art. Okay, so please seek out that documentary Story film. I saw that you could rent it on YouTube for part one for $1.99, and I think you get to keep it for quite a while. Also, it should be on Canopy from our library, and that's free to you guys. Now, they've changed the library out there since COVID. I can't order films like I used to, so and I don't know the new librarian because they're new. So I got a note into them saying, "Do you have this? You should have this in your archives because my students are going to need it." And how you look at, if you've done Canopy before, you go to the Shasta College website, you go to the library site, you go to streaming films, and you'll see it there. It'll say um, films on demand, and it'll have options. Canopy is one of them. Uh, Only thing to watch the films, you're going to need your library card, your number. You're going to need that, and it's free. Okay. That's one way to watch it. Contact me if you're start having problems finding this stuff and how to watch it. I used to show it all in class. We're not in the class anymore, so we're not showing these things in class. If you looked at the syllabus, there's a section in there, a thing called a journal reflection portfolio. You need to start that. That's the class is about 17 weeks long. You need to have an entry for every week that we are in class. And in that entry, you're telling us what we read, what you read, hopefully, what my lectures are about, what you saw, what films you watched, and what you got out of it. That's the reflection part. That's key. I will post a sample of that later on this week in announcements. It'll be a sample from another student's um, journal reflection. You'll see what I'm looking for. So do not let that slip by. It's not going to be due to the last week of school, but don't wait. I'd make the entry every week, every once a week. Save it as a doc file because you can't upload it now. You can't submit it until the last week of school, and that'll be in May. Um, so store it as a Word doc, and then upload it at the time when you need to. And you'll probably be wise to do your journal once a week, maybe more. I don't want a handwritten journal. I've had those. I don't accept them. We're all out of high school now. I don't want to read your handwriting. So please do not submit a handwritten journal. Some people do that. I do take points off for it because it needs to be professionally done in MLA format, double spaced, page numbered, weekly numbers, your name, title of the course, title of the paper. Don't panic over any of this stuff yet. I don't want to overwhelm you guys early on. But later on this week, I will sign the first essay. You'll have plenty of time to do it. Don't worry. But you probably need to start watching the movie now. It's up to you. I'll post all this. You'll see it. Okay. Okay, let me look here. What am I supposed to cover today besides this stuff here? The cultural context is really important to the class. And we just gone through the industrial age. People have cars now. We're flying airplanes, modern warfare. World War One introduced us to machine guns, tanks. It's the first modern warfare. We even had cavalry, and they were slaughtered. The day of a soldier on a horse is over. They couldn't go against machine guns. This has a major effect on people's knowledge, the arts, from painters, from Picasso to writers, like Faulkner and the rest. John Steinbeck. The war affected everybody. Ernest Hemingway wrote one of his greatest novels about the war. This is not a literature class, but this is a cinema literature class, and I do believe cinema is on par with literature. It's on par with Shakespeare. It's on par with Hemingway and Faulkner. If you know these writers from the 20th century, it's on. If you want to compare it to Stephen King, whatever your new writers are, whoever wrote Game of Thrones, that's what cinema is. That's how important it is. So we're coming out of World War One. We're coming home, feeling pretty good that we survived the war. Yes, a lot of people died, over 50,000 people in our country, 2 3 million worldwide. Europe is devastated. Germany is defeated. Now they're going to go underground. There's a guy who's starting to percolate. Not quite yet, though. Adolf Hitler. He'll be around in about a decade to wreak hell on the rest of us. He's not there yet, but he's percolating. He's gathering forces. And like Shakespeare says in Macbeth, by the prick of my thumb, something good this way comes. Soon. So, when you're writing your papers, look at the cultural context of when these movies were made. Try to put yourself back in those times. Um, yeah. So, watch the kid. Please get the book. Please order it. If you order from Chegg, it usually gets here pretty soon. Pay the fees, pay the rentals. What I try to keep the cost down on everything, but because we're not driving to the college, so we're saving on your gas and wear and tear in your car unless you have classes out there that are in the classroom, then I'm sorry. I used to show all the stuff free in the classroom, but I can't do that anymore since COVID. So, um, Silent is golden. You've heard of that. Maybe you've heard that song. It's a rock and roll song a long time ago, before your times. Um, and so, really watch the kid and look at the acting. Look at the acting of the child in that. You could write a page on the beautiful acting of that child, Jackie Coogan, who was 7 years old when he did it. What's he doing? What's going on in this movie? Now, when you're telling me the movie, you're not telling me the story. You're not just saying, well, they do this, they do that, they do that. That's not critically writing about the movie. I'll keep, guys, I'll keep explaining this as we go along and reminding you, do not tell the plot of the movie. Explain the themes, the acting, the directing, the camera, what makes it, what makes it matter. And this movie was done almost 100 years ago. No, it is 100 years ago now. Wow, it's already 2022. Uh, think about that. It's a long time ago, folks. And they were had the need to tell a story through a camera, which was a revolution. My next lecture, which will be in a day or two, I'll be talking more about some films that came before The Kid and some films that came after, before we hit sound. So that's it. You know how to contact me, Rex Haas at yahoo.com, 530-941-9661. You can text me and I'll help you through your your issues. With that, I'll see you next time where the story of film continues.